The following program, Live and Learn, is made possible by Aging Partners. Find out more on their website at agingpartners@lincoln.ne.gov.
Welcome to Live and Learn. I'm Chris Beckenbaugh. My guest today is Dr. Ernie Sigler, Assistant Professor at the University of Nebraska Medical Center College of Dentistry. Welcome.
Good, thank you, Chris. It's good to be here.
We're going to talk a little bit about oral health today and want to remind our viewers that in Living Well magazine, the current issue, there is an article about oral health as well that references some of the research that the students at the College of Dentistry have completed in the last year. So thanks again for being here today, Dr. Sigler.
Thank you.
We're going to focus primarily on senior oral health today. Why do you think there's an increased interest in general dentistry today, in geriatric dentistry?
Chris, that's a great question, and I think it's because our profession is seeing many more patients over the age of 65 than we ever have before. And I think there's two reasons for this. First, our patients are keeping their natural teeth much longer. Years ago, if you were 65, 75 years of age, there was a 75% chance that you wore dentures. Not so anymore. Our students are seeing patients at the college in their 70s, in their 80s, in their 90s. They're doing root canals, they're doing bridges, they're restoring implants, and it's an amazing thing, and it's a great thing to see.
That's terrific.
Also, patients over the age of 65, those people in the next 30 years are going to double, and people over 85 will triple, and so this is going to create a great problem with access to care. The second thing, besides people are keeping their teeth longer, people are living longer. The baby boomers, those of us that were born between 1946 and 64, 18 years, 76 million people of us, and that's going to really impact and cause a lot more patients. So people are keeping their natural teeth longer, and people are living a lot longer, meaning a lot more people to treat.
That's great. What are some of the advantages to hanging on to your natural teeth as opposed to earlier philosophies where people might have thought it's just as well to get them out and
well, you know, I think probably dentures it's kind of like a prosthetic joint. It's a prosthesis, and it's only probably about 20% of your natural chewing ability, and we try to keep teeth for as long as we can. However, there's sometimes when, due to broken teeth, due to extreme wear, because of just a lot of big cavities, that we can't do that, so it's better to make a denture for the patient.
Okay. What are some of the challenges you see in treating elderly patients?
Well, there's many challenges. High blood pressure. Probably 90% of our patients at some time in their life will have high blood pressure. 20% of patients over the age of 60 will have diabetes. People have arthritis. 2 million people suffer from depression that are over 65. 5 million people have dementia. And all these different medical conditions are treated with drugs. And all the drugs have side effects. And some of those side effects, unfortunately, are seen in the mouth. Also, there's other conditions. There's transportation issues. Patients have to have a way to get to the dentist, and they can't, so that's an issue there. Problems with people that have had arthritis or have had a stroke with manual dexterity, so that's an issue. There's a lot of complex treatment plans, and unfortunately, a lot of our elderly people are on fixed incomes, and most of them have no dental insurance.
So what I'm hearing is that medications and other physical conditions really impact your oral health in many ways.
A great deal, absolutely. As far as our dental problems that we see patients with gum disease, we see patients that have busted fillings, that have broken teeth. A lot of our patients have severely worn teeth, that they're only about a half is the length of our natural teeth, and so they have to be crowned, and for some of these patients, they just can't afford it. But I think probably the biggest challenge and the biggest problem that's consistent and that universally affects nearly all our patients that are over the age of 65, and that's dry mouth or xerostomia. And our saliva has many, many functions. It helps us talk, It helps us chew our food. It helps us swallow. It helps us digest our food. And it also helps prevent decay. Our saliva has a lot of natural immunity and protection. Actually, it's our mouth's most precious resource. And when we lose that saliva, we lose a lot of the protection, and we can get decay a lot faster. And this decay is not found so much on the crown part of the tooth. That's the hardest part. It's found below the gum tissue in the soft part of the teeth, and that is very hard to detect in the initial stages. It's very hard to restore because the access is really an issue. And then it's very hard for our patients to clean after we place those restorations. So that's a real big aspect of this, yeah.
So shrinking gums, is that also related? So we've got lack of
yeah,
saliva
shrinking
and then
gums,
gums.
that can be caused from a lot of things. Sometimes it's just an abnormal position of the teeth. They don't have enough room in the mouth, and they come in and they kind of protruded, and therefore the bone on the outside of the tooth is very thin. It can cause a gum recession. Over-aggressive toothbrushing can cause recession. Periodontal disease can cause recession, and also the treatment of periodontal disease, sometimes if the surgery is done, can cause recession.
You talked a little bit about oral health and home care and brushing. Should we be just scrubbing until it shines, or what's your philosophy on toothbrushing?
Well, I think the best thing we can do, Chris, is an electric toothbrush. That will, I think, just let the action of the toothbrush do its job, and it will eliminate a lot of the brushing, really hard and incorrectly, and I think that will help a lot. Yeah.
So if we don't have resources to get an electric toothbrush, what sort of toothbrush should we be using?
Well, I think a soft bristle toothbrush. For some of our elderly patients that have had arthritis and just have a real hard time with manual dexterity, I think there's three types of toothbrushes. There's what they call the radius toothbrush, and it's a lot larger, and it comes in a right and left-handed toothbrush. There's a Collis toothbrush that was invented by Dr. Collis, whose mom was in the nursing home. There's also, for our patients that are on feeding tubes in the nursing home, there's a Plak-Vac toothbrush that's good for that.
So even people that aren't eating really still need to have their teeth cared for?
That's one of the problems we find, people in the nursing home, that they're on a feeding tube, that most of the time the teeth aren't cleaned, but we should really have that, they should really clean their teeth.
So parents with little kids should help with brushing. Those who are caring for a senior with dexterity issues should help with brushing. And are there ways to floss that are more easily managed?
Flossing is sometimes very difficult for our elderly patients, and sometimes there's a little brush called a Proxa brush that oftentimes works better. As far as prevention, I think it's very, very important that our patients come every 6 months to the dentist, especially our elderly patients. And if they're at high risk, in other words, they have a lot of crowns, they have a lot of bridges, every time they come to the dentist, there's 2 or 3 more cavities. I think that they should come every 3 or 4 months and have a good dental cleaning, have a fluoride treatment placed. This can be with a foam or a gel placed in a fluoride tray. Or now, what we're doing now, we're placing fluoride varnish on the teeth. And this stays on the teeth long. We tell the patient not to brush the next day, if possible, and a minimum of 4 hours. And that fluoride is on the teeth for that amount of time, and that's the maximum protection that we give the patient in office. And we'll cut cavities for about 30%. At home, what we can do for our patients, if they have a dry mouth, I think it's important to carry bottled water with them, or just kind of sip or suck on ice chips. And you'd like to have that bottled water fluoridated. That's important. I think for a lot of our patients, we'll prescribe an extra strength fluoride toothpaste. And this is 5 times the strength of the toothpaste that you can buy over the counter. And it can come as a toothpaste that a patient can brush on their teeth. Or for those people that are just having a real hard time and their manual dexterity is just not very good, we can order this in a gel, and that can be placed in a fluoride tray that is custom made just for that patient, and they can put that in the mouth for 5 minutes every day, and this has been shown in some studies to reduce the amount of root caries by 75%. We also can have them chew a special type of chewing gum.
Oh, really?
Xylitol chewing gum. Xylitol is a natural sweetener. It was used in World War II when there's a lack of sugar. A lot of diabetics use it in cooking, but also the xylitol really suppresses the bacteria. And we found that if you can chew 6 to 8 pieces a day, that is enough to suppress the bacteria, and that's been a great benefit. A lot of companies are coming out with aids for dry mouth. There's one company that has a mouthwash for dry mouth, and it contains xylitol, and it also does not contain alcohol. One of the problems with our people with dry mouth is that they have a burning mouth, and this with the mouthwashes that contain alcohol, then that can cause some problems there. This company also has a gel that it can be used as an oral moisturizer, and that can be placed and rubbed around the teeth, and it can make the gums and the teeth feel a lot better. People that have dentures that have a dry mouth have a real hard time with retention, so that can be rubbed on the inside of the denture, so that helps a lot.
So that'll help them keep their
Absolutely.
denture in place.
Absolutely.
Okay.
There's also one other thing, it's a paste, it's an MI paste. A lot of the research was done at the University of Iowa, but what it has in it, it has some phosphate and has some calcium, and that can be put back in the tooth if it's rubbed over the teeth, and it can cause decay that's in the incipient stages. It can remineralize that, and it can cause a reversal of that decay.
So decay that's not really what we would consider a cavity yet can actually be reversed.
It can be reversed, and it can be remineralized with the fluoride and with also this putting the phosphate and the calcium back in the teeth.
That's terrific. Well, you mentioned chewing gum and 6 to 8 pieces a day.
Yeah, we think we need 6 to 8 grams. So what I do, and I'm taking a couple of medications that cause a little bit of a dry mouth. I chew 2 pieces after breakfast and 2 pieces after lunch, 2 pieces after my evening meal, and 2 pieces before I get to bed.
Okay, and you don't have to chew those for a half hour at a time?
No, 5 minutes or so,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All the juice runs out, then you've got the benefit of that.
So we're going to see our dentist on a regular basis.
Yes.
We're going to practice really good oral hygiene at home and help those around us who can't do that themselves.
Exactly.
And then just pay attention to saliva flow and
the dry mouth, what causes dry mouth? Over 400 medications cause a dry mouth. And all these drugs that we use to treat the high blood pressure and to treat the diabetes and to treat arthritis and all that, depression, can cause dry mouth. And so that's important, yeah.
So that sounds like it's a big risk for seniors.
It's a huge risk for seniors, and it really has made our practice, it's made a big challenge in our practice.
Well, Dr. Sigler, I know that you came to the University of Nebraska as an instructor, but where did you get your training and what brought you to Nebraska?
I got my training at our dental school here.
Okay.
And I graduated in 1975. I joined the Army for 2 years, and I ended up staying 30. So it was a great experience, and I don't try to talk anybody in the military. Just said for me it was the right thing to do, and it was a great thing to do.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for your service to our country. Thank you for your time here today, and we appreciate everything you've done.
You're welcome, Chris. It's great being here. Thank you so much.
And Live and Learn will be right back.
What does Medicare cover? How can I afford to keep living in my home? When I need help with house and yard work, who can I turn to? Why am I so tired? Am I eating right? Should I exercise? Where can I go for answers to my questions about aging?
Aging Partners is the place to call when you have questions on aging. Our experts are here to help you with unbiased answers for you or your loved ones. Aging Partners, we're only a phone call away.
If you're old enough to remember poodle skirts and saddle shoes, you're invited to audition for the Ollie Radioactive Players Senior Sock Hop Rockin' the 50s, a musical comedy at the Lincoln Community Playhouse, Wednesday, September 5th from 1 till 3. It's free. Ollie membership is not required. If you're 50 or older and you love to sing, call the Ollie office. Trios and quartets are welcome. Call 402-472-6265 to relive the 1950s.
Welcome back to Live and Learn. I'm Sam Truax, and today I want to discuss how some of the Lincoln communities still reflect the character that was established long before they were part of the city. We'll use University Place in Northeast Lincoln as an example of such a community because this year Nebraska Wesleyan University will be celebrating its 125th anniversary. On September 19th and 20th, the university will kick off its anniversary celebration with seminars and other gatherings, and throughout the year they will have homecoming and other commemorative events. To help us talk about the start of the university and the University Place community, today's guest, Dr. David Mickey, who is Professor Emeritus and the author of Sunflowers, Coyotes, and Plainsmen, a 3-volume history of Nebraska Wesleyan University. Dr. Mickey is 95 years old, so he's a good example of the theme that we often have on Live and Learn, and that is it's never too late to be involved in the issues that interest you. Also joining us today, due to her intimate knowledge of the University Place community, is Colleen Singh, whom I guess we can call Mayor Emeritus because amongst her many accomplishments is being the Mayor of Lincoln. Mayor Singh, how would you describe the basic character of the University Place community?
I think it's very similar to what started in and around Nebraska Wesleyan. It was a place that was founded with a lot of principles, high value, high standards, and that is still rather true today, although there's been a lot of changes along the way. But I think we still reflect our basic heritage out in University Place.
Yes, the Methodist community. We just had a shot on screen of the University Place around 1920 or so. And because it was a Methodist community, it was dry.
Oh, it was dry.
No.
It was dry. And, you know, there was a railroad track that went on out to Havelock, and, you know, occasionally Havelock would be called Sin City only because it had the bars out there, and Methodist University Place was so dry. And we still don't have many bars in University Place.
Right. Yep, the values of the university, which was a Methodist background, remain in the community today.
That's right. That's right.
So, Dr. Mickey, the university was the basic impetus for the start of the community. Nebraska Methodist wanted to establish an appropriate educational facility. And so when did all that start?
Well, the desire of Nebraska Methodist Episcopalians to have an institution of higher learning was one of long standing. And my grandfather, John H. Mickey, had a lot to do with it as a resident of Osceola. And one early effort after the other did not succeed for many, many reasons, basically financial. And then, of course, when they concentrated on University Place, there was one concern. They wanted a distance sufficient from the rather sinful city, we might say, of Lincoln itself. So this is why it was out far enough to be a little bit, at least separated from.
Yes, I understand that actually the secular land-grant university in Lincoln was not appropriate education at the time.
They wanted enough distance.
That's right. They had
to
enough distance from Havelock, Sin City,
all
and
the bad
enough
influences. Yes.
Basically, we have pictures of Old Main, which was 1987 or 89 when the university started, without actually having the church, and the church didn't come around until 1909. So we have a picture of the church also.
Actually, they didn't have the first services in the church until 1912.
1912, yeah. There's a picture of
finances again.
Yes.
And those good Methodists put their money into education, first of all,
You betcha.
and then they built the church.
Yes.
So,
Yes, it is interesting to me that the dry character of the University Place community is still apparent when you compare it with Havelock, which still has a
Yeah,
number of
well,
taverns and the movie theater and all that sinful stuff like going to the movies.
Well, they first met in homes, and then they climbed those long stairs to the top floor of Old Main and worshipped in the chapel. So you see, it was a long time before they got around to the building of a church and then holding services in it.
Well, Mayor Singh, the Lincoln's growth kind of absorbed the University Place community, so would you say that there's still the community adhesion and the cooperative spirit that
Yes,
kind of started
yes.
the community?
there's really strong connections between the church, Nebraska Wesleyan, and the community that surrounds it. A perfect example was just in recent years when Hy-Vee was building new stores out around Lincoln. They were going to close that one there in University Place. Well, that community involving neighborhood folks, Nebraska Wesleyan students, faculty, administration, church folks all came together and said, oh no, we need that grocery store to stay right there. And everyone is supporting it. It's very successful, and they've added a very fine grill inside of it. It just keeps improving.
Yes.
And that's a perfect example. There are others we could use, but that's a more recent one.
Yes, I know. My impression was the UPCO community, the University Place Community
Community
organization, actually is very strong, and it's probably due to the ties between the church and the university and the community.
Well,
That's why they're so strong.
I think it was obvious a few years back, like 40 some years, that the housing stock needed some real effort, and that was the impetus to get a neighborhood organization going. And it still is operating.
Yes, well, the longevity of the employees and the staff at the university kind of ties into that because everyone seems to stay quite a while at the university.
A long, long time, and this deals with the administration as well as the teachers and the maintenance people the same. They're just years and years and years. It just seems as if they came, they stayed. And I always would like to mention two young professors, Leon Satterfield and Bill Clefcorn, who came up from Kansas to teach at Wesleyan, intending to stay there 1 year. And this is the only place they ever taught.
They never left.
Yep.
They never left.
Well, you have that kind of loyalty yourself because you started as a student in the 30s and carried on for quite a while yourself.
With all that deep family connection, yes, it's been my life.
So you graduated in 39 and wrote the history, and you taught there for a number of years. How many years?
At least a total of 34.
34 years or so of teaching. University actually influenced many things about the community, such as the size of the houses, Mayor Singh.
Yes, I think when you look around, the oldest housing stock that is still around close in to Nebraska Wesleyan, those are quite large homes built with quite a few bedrooms. And the reason was there were not dormitories in those days, and so the students lived in the houses surrounding. And Dr. Mickey can tell about when he was trying to find housing for after World War II and trying to locate places for, 70-some?
70-some veterans.
Veterans that were coming back. And they were just starting to build a dormitory, but it wasn't quite finished yet. And so we've got a lot of stories like that around.
Yes, and most of them are told in Dr.
Mickey's book.
Yes. But the university has definitely had a very high impact on that community. Even the house sizes are.
Well, Sam, we can take a look around Lincoln and look at another older neighborhood that was built around a university also, and that would be College View. It was built around Union College.
Oh, you betcha.
And a good deal of the close in to the University of Nebraska was built around the area.
University,
Yeah.
yes. Well, I know you got to know quite a few interesting people at the university. For example, you've told the story of the cleaning lady who wouldn't let the professor use his office until she was done.
The president of the college couldn't use his office because she had to clean it. That's Lucille Martin. And such a person as she proved to be.
And that just shows that there was a great cooperation amongst all levels of the community, basically.
There was great respect for people that had been there. And you found it coming in all directions, you know, up and down and all around.
Well, one of the stories is about the person seeing the ghost in the C.C. White building. Again, we don't need to go into all the details of that, but actually there was a vision there by somebody.
Well, the death of Clara Urania Mills, after she had hurried from taking care of her ill father, she had walked too fast and she had a heart attack and died in her office, actually.
Yeah, so then somebody saw her image out in the hallway. And
well, it's told in my first volume of the history.
Say. Your book should tell a lot of that kind of story.
And there have been a lot of stories about ghosts being seen elsewhere, but to my knowledge, there never were any others seen.
Well, a lot of communities use those ghost stories to attract tourists, so it's too bad that they tore down the C.C. White building where the ghost of Clara Mills was wandering, huh?
I know, and of course, Colleen Pruderball, who was Sam Dahl's secretary, had a message for Dr. Oh Lord, what was his name? He was a Scottish professor. And of course, she went over to leave a message for him, and here was this real tall woman with a heavy head of hair, white blouse, long skirt, standing in the music office, searching through something on the wall. And of course...
well, I understand when the president was told about that, he said, from Scotland we have many, many ghosts, and so he wasn't very impressed with.
Well, that was the visiting professor we had from Scotland.
Professor, yeah.
And there were people that wouldn't go into the north end of the first floor of C.C. White because they thought that ghost was there.
Was going to get him, huh?
But it didn't bother him at all. His name was McCourt.
We could talk about another professor that was there a long time. Was Gladys Lux, she was this one-woman art department way back when females were barely working in teaching in universities, and there she was teaching, and she just kept acquiring property around University Place. And one of the things that she wanted to do was to preserve anything and everything that was around. Mm-hmm. And she actually bought the old City Hall of University Place.
Yes.
The fire station and City Hall. And
we do have some pictures of the Lux Center for the Arts.
That's right.
And you at the dedication for that building. And
she was so instrumental in that, and I know when she called me and said, Colleen, we've got to save that building, and I headed her toward a realtor, and I thought, oh dear, what have I done? Mm-hmm. But her family said, no, that's okay. She's got the money, she can do it.
It just shows you that the ties between the university and the community are still strong.
Very good.
And there's a lot of evidence of that.
I just received the most recent card from the Lux Museum Center.
Yes.
So they're going strong.
They have been guests on this show, as a matter of fact, to tell about their activities. And but things continue to change in the community, and I was very interested in the fact that the Methodists are no longer the majority in the student body. The Catholics and the Presbyterians outnumber the Methodists at this place, but despite that difference, the changes, the community still kind of adheres together. So.
Well, I think there's still very high standards, both on within the university and also within the community at large. Certainly is within the church. And
yes. Well, we urge our viewers to look at the character of their particular neighborhood. They might not be as strong as the ties in University Place, but I'm sure there's some interesting things that you should consider about your community.
Well, to to begin with, they had a required chapel, you know, every day,
Yes, they
5
did.
days a week.
They did require
And now, of
chapel.
course, that they no longer have the chapel.
Right.
But it
they
doesn't mean there isn't a strong religious
Yes.
conviction.
That's right, and I think that's a
In many
good tie to the
respects, yeah.
community myself.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to thank my guests today, Dr. David Mickey and Mayor Colleen Singh.
If you're old enough to remember poodle skirts and saddle shoes, you're invited to audition for the Ollie Radioactive Players Senior Sock Hop Rockin' the 50s, a musical comedy at the Lincoln Community Playhouse, Wednesday, September 5th from 1 till 3. It's free. Ollie membership is not required. If you're 50 or older and you love to sing, call the Ollie office. Trios and quartets are welcome. Call 402-472-6265 to relive the 1950s.
What does Medicare cover? How can I afford to keep living in my home? When I need help with house and yard work, who can I turn to? Why am I so tired? Am I eating right? Should I exercise? Where can I go for answers to my questions about aging?
Aging Partners is the place to call when you have questions on aging. Our experts are here to help you with unbiased answers for you or your loved ones. Aging Partners, we're only a phone call away.
Does your scrapbook look like this? The pages are all falling out. Everything is yellowed. It smells really bad. Yeah, but these are memories that we have to save. We hope somebody wants them. We're getting to the age where we got to do something with this. Welcome back to Live and Learn. I'm Lita Powell-Drake. We have help on the way. Judy Schutz is with us today, and we're going to be talking some really good stuff about 5 ways to preserve your memories. Judy Schutz, where do we begin? Oh, it's a big, big job. But somebody's got to do it. Where would you begin?
First of all, this is a great photo. I found it in my family photos, but there's a problem with it. Don't know who it is. So the most important
But it must
thing,
be somebody in your family, or wouldn't be in your family stuff.
Yes, yes. So the point is, the most important thing is to write on your photos. A number 2 pencil works.
Now, where on your photos?
On the back.
On the back, and not where the picture is, but in the margins.
If there is a margin, that's the best.
Yeah, and how do we identify these people?
The Historical Society can help you. There's lots of information about how to date them. But if you want to preserve a photo for your generations, the most important thing is to go through your photos and write on them.
Right, and if you find anything that has been written on the back of some of these things, which a lot of people did or wrote in the margins or whatever, I think the best thing to do is to take that picture. The best thing to do is to put it in a little envelope and write all the information you really need on the outside of the envelope and put that in. If you don't want to do that because you've got thousands of pictures, you can still write in the margins on the back in a number 2 pencil. And don't just put Aunt Ida. Put, if you know it, the full name, an approximate guess of time, whatever information you have, you know.
And the place.
And the place, excellent,
place.
yes. So that's just one example. Now, if you've got a whole box of, or big cardboard boxes full of pictures, what do we do, Judy?
Take them out of the photo albums if they're loose, or if they're loose, just store them in boxes. Make sure they're acid-free or archival safe.
And make sure you look for that, because a lot of times they'll just say, you know, good for storing pictures, but make certain it says archival safe and acid-free. Acid-free, you know the smell that I just smelled from the that album? That's acid, and it'll eat right through your cardboard box. If you get your stuff stored in cardboard boxes, they're going to deteriorate anyway. And now, remember when this came out? When were these, the sticky pages? Do you remember
The
the year?
70s, I think.
In the 70s? And we thought this was so swell. because you could just stick your, you didn't have to use the, remember the little things that those little stickums in the corner that we put little corners, and we tucked them in there. This is really good because you could take that plastic page and it just went over this. Do you have one on here, or have you already taken it off?
I've taken the plastic page off, but now you can see the photos are still stuck.
Yeah,
and
they're
we need
stuck.
to get them off so the acid doesn't, and the glue doesn't ruin the photos.
All right, how do we get, without ripping these pictures off the page, how are we going to get them off, Judy?
One of the ways you can do is use a piece of dental floss and very carefully slide it behind the photo and then just wiggle it very slowly down the back, and it will take the photo off. Now the photo may still have glue on it, so then you want to make sure that you either take a photograph of the photo or scan your photo to keep it forever.
Yeah, well, forever. As the technology keeps changing, what is forever? We're just trying to keep up with it to preserve what we actually have left. Okay, scanning is a whole different thing, you know, and if you don't know how to scan, who do you call?
A good way to share your family memories is to talk to your grandkids, and they're the ones with the technology.
Yeah. Well, Judy,
they can help you.
Yes, those little darlings can. I had the very good fortune several years ago to interview Alex Haley, the author of Roots and the television series. And what stuck out in my memory is what he said to me and to the audience. He said, listen to the stories of your mother and father and your grandparents. Listen to them because they're not going to be around all that time. And when they're gone, which they will be and we will be, you got a picture left with no identification. Listen to their stories. And I must admit, I tuned my mother out when she would talk, and my grandmother. I was a kid. It didn't mean anything. I tuned them. I didn't know. I'm so sorry because I'm uncovering pictures now, and I thought, oh, if I only listened to this. All right. Well, here's a novel way. Your grandmother made a wonderful gingerbread or something. You have passed, or pizza. You've passed that generation on, or that a recipe on down through the generation. You want to preserve it? What's a good way, Judy?
A good way is to make a family cookbook. Invite your grandkids over, cook the recipe with them, and then maybe make a cookbook. A friend of mine did this cookbook with her family, and it actually has photos of her family and stories about the family in addition to the recipes.
I think that is a wonderful idea. So you got the standard recipes, but you got all these great pictures.
It's a great historical record.
Yes. Now,
keeps memories.
As you're going through your pictures and you run across stuff and you have no idea who they are, like for example, I found in my stuff preparing and talking to Judy, a tin type that I had no idea who it was, but just like Judy, it was in the box of my mother's stuff. And so I knew it had to be somebody. But then I noticed the picture on the left of the screen, there's the clearer picture. My mother took the tin type, which is on the left of your screen. Tin types were done between 1860 and 1880. And they were shot a lot during the Civil War. What she did, and she actually had written on the back of, no, she didn't write on this. I found it on the back. It was a photography studio in Milwaukee. My mother was a teacher, and she was teaching in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and took the tin type and had it transferred in 1968. Look at the quality of the improvement of that picture. Think of what you could do with that today. So that tin type actually would date back to the Civil War, and this would have been shot in a photography studio. Remember, this is a plate. There's only one of a kind. The Civil War soldiers used to take these with them because since it was tin, and I don't want to put my fingers all over this now that I know I'm trying to take care, since they could put it in their breast pocket and it would be a lot safer than a picture. So these were done regularly by a lot of the soldiers, so a lot of Civil War veterans. But since it's a plate, there are no negatives, so that's the only one that is made. Now, men's photos are a lot more difficult to identify the time and the place because women were the ones who changed the hairstyle, changed the clothes, and those were dead giveaways. But for men, it's a little harder. This would have been a very formal setting. Now, I went to the Nebraska State Historical Society and got fabulous information there from the coordinator of photography, who happens to be Karen Kerr. She's the curator of photography at the Nebraska History Museum, and she took this picture. I had no idea who this was. Written on the back in pencil, it was Hicks crab. I heard my mother talking about a Hicks crab. I tuned her out, didn't listen. And when Karen looked at this picture, she said, and here's what they will do for free. I want you to listen carefully because I'm sure you've got some pictures like this. She said, I would say that took place about 1910. She said, look, there's several things that you can look for. Probably the boy was about age 10 or 12. And I said, why would you say that? And she said, he's wearing long pants. A child under 10 would have had knickers at that time. I said, oh. Now he's wearing a sweater, and there's a tie, a little bow tie, which is rather odd. Now look at the shoes. The shoes are high-laced, and they're laced up to the top where they're eyelets. Then just like on our old-fashioned ice skates, you have those little eyelets on the top. Look at the needlepoint pillow. You're able to tell a date from that. Now, if you could see a little more closely to the right-hand side, well, it's the right side of the picture. This was taken in a photographer's studio too, because there are little wrinkles in the floor, so you can see that. Now, look at the dog. Judy, can you guess what kind of dog that is? What do you think this dog is?
Oh, gosh. Some kind of a pinscher?
Yeah, well, it would have been called a bull terrier in those days. This is 1910 now.
Terrier.
A bull terrier. This is the pit bull. And I said, what?
Yeah.
That pit bull? And she said, look, there's a chain. There's a chain, not a leash. There's a chain, not a leash. She said the dog's ears have been cut, so they stand up like that. And I was fascinated by this. The pit bull in those days, 1910, was used to guard children. Yes. And I heard the name Hicks crab, from my mother, and finally began to listen. That was her cousin. So I discovered my grandfather in the previous picture, my great-grandfather. I mean, this was just so amazing. So there's so many things that we can learn from this. I just had some little notes here that I wanted to talk about. All right, with regards to photograph albums and the maintenance of them, and we want to save these pictures as much as we possibly can. There are other things to talk about too. Okay, we're identifying the picture now. We've done the best that we can. Now, what about writing? I mean, put it in writing.
If you can write, I encourage anybody to write their family stories. Write down the stories you've heard from your grandparents, your parents. Write them down to the best of your ability so they can be saved. If writing is really a daunting task for you, a lot of people tell me they procrastinate, they don't like to write.
Yeah.
You could try this tip. Do a one-liner. Get a journal, a spiral notebook. It can be anything. And try writing one line every day. Sometimes when you write one line, you'll write two or three, or it might turn into pages. And so then at least you have something. It could be a memory of your parents. It could be something you did that day. Just some kind of a memory to get in the habit of writing them down.
You want to get started. If you just get started, that's the hardest thing of all, is say, okay, I'm going to do it. And so even if you just write one line, put it aside, next day something may come to you. It's absolutely amazing. So keep a journal, do a one-liner, start with it. Okay, now, I know you've got lots of these things around. Old audio tapes, oh dear. Old audio tapes, no audio tape playback machines to play them on, and they're sitting there. Hopefully there's something that identifies. What are you going to do with this? What are you going to do with old 16mm film? Still looks pretty good, Can you have it transferred? What are you going to do with the VHS tape, the 3/4 inch tape, all those tapes, all right? You got any suggestion, Miss Judy Schutz?
I would convert them to something that you can use now, a DVD or a CD. The local audio stores can help you with that. There's nothing to play these on usually. People don't have anything. So if you want to save them, keep them. you can keep the originals, keep them away from heat and cold. So keep them in a neutral place on the first floor of your house. No attics, no basements.
Yeah, and also this is what Ms. Kerr said at the State Historical Society. She said the best place to keep this stuff, believe it or not only in an acid-free, archival-safe box, but is under your bed. You got room under there, unless you've shoved a whole bunch of Christmas decorations under your bed. Okay. Now, I like the idea of a see-through clear plastic box. You can use plastic if it doesn't smell like plastic. It cannot smell like plastic, or it's going to destroy, or cardboard.
And they'll be marked archival safe.
Right.
Also.
Okay. That would be wonderful. Then, punch a hole in the sides to get a little movement of air, because on those plastic boxes, those lids come down pretty tightly. You don't want that. So just get a little air in there and stick it under your bed, because it's dark. Nothing's good. The sunlight is the thing that kills everything. If you've got a picture up in your living room, it's going to fade and fade and fade, and soon it will be gone. But I like the idea of sticking it under your bed in an archival safe box, and it's not going to get dirty there, and you get a little air punched through it. Yes. So the interesting thing is the Nebraska State Historical Society will look at your pictures and identify them at no charge. Now, they don't want you to bring in a whole big, gigantic box of this stuff. But if you've got a couple of pictures of your family that are very important to you and you don't know enough, they will be it'll be amazing. I think we have the information up on the screen. You can call Karen Kerr, who is the curator of photography at the Nebraska State Historical Society right here in Lincoln. And her telephone number is 402, write this down, 471-8922. You got it? Then give her a call, make an appointment, go in. I think it's a wonderful service that they provide. And she was able to help me to identify these pictures of my great-grandfather and a cousin that I had no idea about. I was just so thrilled. I just couldn't believe it. Okay, now, you also do voice recordings, and what's more important, Judy Schutz, than to have the voice of your loved one? What do you do?
I come into your home and record your family stories. The stories told in your own voice is absolutely priceless. Think to yourself, whose voice would you like to hear? And what stories do you wish you could hear again? And when you do that, then think of the future generations. You can be a good ancestor. You can do this for your family.
Well, we can't blame our family too much for not identifying all this stuff, because they didn't know. I mean, they didn't. Here's Aunt Ida, whatever. Right. Now we know that we have no excuse for not identifying this stuff for our families. Maybe some of our families don't care, but we'll have it ready in case they do care. Wouldn't that be nice if they did care? Yes.
And what I do is I put it on a CD and save it for you. You don't have to do a lot of work. I come in and do all the work. You just sit and tell the stories.
I like that, when somebody else does all the work. And telling stories, capture those many memories in time. So Voices in Time, if you want to go to the web and find out more about Judy Schutz, there it is. Our voicesinTime.com. Or you could give Judy a call at 402 area code 429-1935. 1930, was that the year you were born? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's easy to remember, though, isn't it?
It is.
Oh, this has been really great. Now, okay, do something about this today, folks. Don't put it off until tomorrow. All right, 5 easy ways to preserve your memories. I'm Lita Powell-Drake. Judy Schutz, thank you so much for sharing this with us, Judy. And we're going to be back on Live and Learn right after this. If you're old enough to remember poodle skirts and saddle shoes, you're invited to audition for the Ollie Radioactive Players Senior Sock Hop, Rockin' the 50s, a musical comedy at the Lincoln Community Playhouse, Wednesday, September 5th from 1 till 3. It's free. Ollie membership is not required. If you're 50 or older and you love to sing, call the Ollie office. Trios and quartets are welcome. Call 402-472-6600. 6265 to relive the 1950s.
What does Medicare cover? How can I afford to keep living in my home? When I need help with house and yard work, who can I turn to? Why am I so tired? Am I eating right? Should I exercise? Where can I go for answers to my questions about aging?
Aging Partners is the place to call when you have questions on aging. Our experts are here to help you with unbiased answers for you or your loved ones. Aging Partners, we're only a phone call away.
Welcome back to Live and Learn. You know, my subject today for the Live and Learn show is about one of the best kept secrets in Lancaster County. And my guest is going to let the cat out of the bag. Carol Meyerhoff, who is on the staff of the Aging Partners, her responsibilities is rural transportation, one of her responsibilities. And so we're going to be talking about rural transportation here in Lancaster County. Carol, thank you for coming and being on the Live and Learn show.
Appreciate the opportunity.
All right, now, how long have you been on the staff of Aging Partners?
End of next month, it'll be 4 years.
And you have several responsibilities. Talk a little bit about that.
I do wear a couple hats. I coordinate the Home Handyman program, which offers home repairs, minor maintenance to seniors living in their homes in the Lincoln-Lancaster County area. Also the Lifeline program, which is a personal emergency response service.
Okay, well now let's talk about the rural transportation segment of your job. I happened to get on the bus down at Traber Hall the other morning and then took some pictures on the bus. I followed the bus around. So how many days now does the bus run?
Public transit operates 4 days a week. We go Monday and Wednesday, pick up folks in Lincoln and head to the north part of the county. And on Tuesday, Thursday, we service the south part of the county.
Okay, well I went on Thursday,
Right.
So we went to Hickman and Firth and Princeton and all of those down south, and I got to meet Bonnie, the bus driver, and what a wonderful person, great personality, great for the job. She's a people person.
All of our drivers are excellent. Bonnie is exceptional. You couldn't ask for a better driver than Bonnie. She is very friendly, engaging. You step on board as a stranger, and after your first trip, you're part of the family.
Well, I saw how the individual riders, it's a social gathering for them. You know, they know everybody. Bonnie knows everybody that's getting on the bus, pretty much so. And they tell about what's happened since the last time they were on the bus. So it was, yeah. Now, yeah, I know you had one incident where here on one of the programs, a rider didn't show up, and the driver went to check on him, and they had fallen and had to call an ambulance, that sort of. So, you know, that's a great service out there. Now, I know that there's probably some federal funds involved with it. Tell us about how federal funds got involved and what all they're doing here.
Well, the public transit is supported by federal, state, and the local match is county funds. And so we do an application for operational funds every year, and we have a great group of county commissioners who appreciate and understand the support that that gives to keeping people in the rural community especially connected.
Okay, well now the commissioners probably had to get involved with the grant for the buses themselves.
Absolutely. About 3 years ago, President Obama opened up an opportunity with a stimulus package to acquire some buses. Before that, we had vans that were harder to get into. The buses allow us the headroom, bigger carrying capacity. You can bring on more packages. So when that opportunity came forward, brought it to the commissioners, and their quick response allowed us to acquire 2 brand new buses, which we use in the service now.
And I saw how you can have 2 wheelchairs on the bus.
Right.
And plus all of the riders got seat belts, and so yeah, it's a real safe program. Well now, what about you've made some difference in this program since you came on staff.
Well, as soon as I got the job, I started getting some phone calls, and why can't Lincoln residents go out to the rural communities? There were several seniors that called that said, for example, my brother lived on a farm, moved to maybe the Waverly Care Center, and I feel comfortable driving in town, but I don't feel comfortable driving highway speeds. And so we started questioning that, and with the county commissioner's approval and recommendations, we were able to get that reclassified, reclarified from the FTA, and we are able to pick up people in Lincoln and transport them to the rural areas also.
Well, good for you. Now you've done another good thing there too about being able to make more than one stop.
Absolutely. We were picking up people in the rural community, and once they got inside the Lincoln city limits, which is considered urban, they had to acquire, or we helped them acquire, different transportation. So for example, if we picked you up in, just using Hickman for example, and brought you in for a doctor's appointment, if you had to fill a prescription, we would have to get you additional transportation to make that transfer. And again, FTA clarified that ruling, and we're able to do multiple stops. So you ride with us the entire trip.
Well, yeah, I can understand where you drop them off at the doctor's office, and the doctor says, you got to go get a prescription. What do we do? Yeah,
exactly.
Well, that's great. That's great. Now, tell me about it. If I'm coming in from Hickman and my grandson's been out there staying with me for a while, can all ages get on the bus?
Oh, all ages can get on the bus. We have to follow all the guidelines that you would in your personal vehicle. So if they would need booster chairs, car seats, those kinds of things, that would need to be provided. That young a child, a parent or guardian would need to ride along. But anyone that is 6 to 18 years of age with parents' permission, we would take them back into Lincoln as the example you gave.
Okay, all right. And probably one of the best parts about this is how affordable this is.
I don't think you could find a less expensive or less expensive means of transportation. It's $2 per boarding. So a round trip will cost you $4. An additional stop, an additional $2. So for every stop, it's $2. But it certainly is well supported and a subsidized program that allows anyone to ride.
Well, yeah, we all know the price of gasoline, and for being able to do this for $2 coming in and $2 going home, geez, that's a real bargain there. And I heard one of the riders say, "Oh, I still drive to church, but I just don't feel comfortable driving into Lincoln," for example.
Right. We have many requests for rides, and some folks do have driver's license that they're like you said, they're comfortable in their small town, but you get to Lincoln with the heavy traffic, the congestion, the construction, the parking situation, and they would much rather secure a ride with us, get it dropped off right at the door and picked up when they need and taken home. So it's a convenient, safe, and more comfortable for many folks.
You alluded to this a little bit. Now, if, we're not talking just to people from rural here, but people that live in urban Lincoln can utilize this if they want to go out to visit their brother or go to a nursing home, visit somebody outside of Lincoln.
Yeah, a good example of some riders that do that. They were living in the rural area and had to move to Lincoln because of their housing situation. They still love to fish, but they don't have a car or a driver's license. So they take public transportation to the local fishing sites, the lakes, and they go north on Monday, Wednesday, and south on Tuesday, Thursday, and they're able to continue with their hobby, stay connected with some friends in rural, and really enjoy that time.
Well, this is great for. We need to get the word out that because, as I said, this is one of the best kept secrets that people in Lincoln can go out, and of course, it's for those people that are outside. Now, there is an article, and of course, I'm quite proud of this article of the Living Well magazine this month. There's an article in here about the Rural Transportation Program. So you can see that and read a little bit more about the Rural Transportation Program there. Now, how about if I live in, let's say, Greenwood or Waverly or Eagle, just outside of Lancaster County, can we still accommodate them?
Right, there's several communities in the outlying areas just outside the Lancaster County, and that would be Adams, Ceresco, Cortland, Eagle, and Greenwood, and we're able to pick those folks up also.
Well, as I was on the bus, and I took some video of Bonnie driving the bus and the riders on the bus, you know, I saw that they're just having a little social gathering there, talking about things and what's happened. So it's ideal for people that are somewhat bound and can't get around here in and get into the city. What about can people come in one day and stay over and then go back the next day? They don't have to come and go the same day.
No, no. If you want to visit a location, a relative, you can schedule your trip, one leg of your trip one day, and simply call the dispatch office and schedule your trip back whenever you want to return, whether it be a week or 2 weeks or whenever you want.
Okay, you mentioned that. Now we need to put the phone number of where they call
right
up on the screen here, and that is?
It's 402-441-7031.
Okay, and that's the Lancaster County Public Rural Transit Office, and that's where they would go to get connected and find out information about whether they can get on this bus or whether the bus is going to be running, because some days there aren't enough transportation, enough riders to really accommodate we need to accommodate them, so we don't run that day, right?
Well, if there's no riders, we would run if we do have a rider at all. So there's no limit as far as the number of riders we need.
Okay, so but we can accommodate how many passengers?
It's 12 passengers,
12 passengers?
plus
Okay.
2 wheelchairs.
All right, okay. So, well, Carol, thank you for coming and telling us about this best-kept secret here in Lancaster County and about the Rural Transportation Program. Good article in the Living Well magazine, and thanks for coming and being on the Live and Learn show.
I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
All right. And remember, it's never too late to live and learn.